What's up, everybody? I've made a video kind of similar to this before, but it didn't perform very well. It only got like 10 views. But I wanted to remake this video and talk about my mental health, and I I don't feel like talking about it today, but I feel like I need to because I know that some of you watching this are struggling with depression and hopelessness and even suicidal thoughts, and I just kind of wanted to share part of my story and um, the most kind of important parts of my story. I think the biggest problem is that I have bipolar, and bipolar isn't really curable. Um, Bipolar is basically, if you don't know, it's basically a mental health disorder that causes mood swings, from intense lows and intense highs, and cause you to lose sleep and go into mania, um, which is basically, again, it's like this stronger mood swing essentially, and mania can cause a lot of issues. For mania, I have just basically lost control, and there's not the scary thing about mania is the sense that you feel like you can do whatever you want and get away with it. Um, which for me, I've wanted to basically commit suicide every time that I've been in mania, and I actually admitted myself for the first time when I got hospitalized, and then I got hospitalized, I believe, 2 other times, and it was with these last 2 hospitalizations that's been more so confirmed that I have bipolar 2, but the part of my story that I feel like I want to share the most is just my relationship with God, and also my spiritual battles in my life, my physical battles that I went through in my life. And this stuff is not always easy to talk about. And for me right now, I know my YouTube channel is like kind of in a weird spot. I post a lot of gaming videos and stuff, but sometimes I just like to post these type of videos, or videos that just things that I like to enjoy to post about. And I want to just keep pressing forward with this channel and making it something so much bigger. But guys, this is just something that I feel so led to just talk about, and in my experiences. So I feel like with my story, I always like to go from the part where my life was like affected the most, and I will move on to where, like, what's going on in my life now. But I believe it was like 2019 or 2020, like I think it was like in the middle somewhere, but like pre-COVID was basically happening. And I was getting stressed out, even though there was like minimal, the amount of people that were affected was very minimal, and it was still in China. It was like 200 to 300 people, and I saw it on the news. And I told my mom, I think this is gonna be really, really bad. And a lot of people, probably didn't even know it was out yet. People didn't know that COVID probably even existed at that time. But I remember seeing it on the news and thinking, this is going to become, I don't know why I thought this, but I was like, this is going to become really, really bad. And then obviously it exploded. And this part I feel like is kind of important, just because this is kind of the timeline where I spiraled into a manic episode for the first time. And I was actually at my dad's house around that time, and I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah, like I lost my job and stuff, and I literally had $40 in my bank account. So I was gonna walk across the street to go to the bank because, I don't know why I decided to walk to the bank, because they're not gonna be able to really help me with anything at that time. But I went over there and talked to them, and they kind of helped me out and stuff and said it's gonna be all right, it's gonna be okay. I'm trying to recall. Hang on. I think it was I was like negative $40 in my bank account is what it was, I believe. But yeah, like I said, I went there and talked to the guy there, and he helped me out, I felt like. And then as I walked out, I just felt like so depressed, like, out of nowhere. I just felt like so depressed and just hopeless, like nobody really cared. And I felt sick, like, at that moment. But I sat down by a tree and started crying because I just felt so hopeless. Like, I didn't have hardly any money, and my anxiety was just so high. And I didn't really realize at the time that I was experiencing a manic episode, because before all of this, I spent a ton of money. This was also when I didn't have a job. I spent a ton of money at Goodwill. I don't know why. Like, I never ever shop at Goodwill, but for some reason I went there. I spent $300 and wanted to resell things. It was genuinely insane, because this is a part of mania that some people don't realize. Is you're compulsive. You like to spend money, and then you feel guilty afterwards. But I didn't even know I had bipolar at this point in my life. So knowing that now, I have never felt that type of desire to do something like that again. But I just remember feeling so hopeless, and as I was about to walk across the street to my dad's house, I think I threw up is what happened. I literally threw up, and then as I was about to walk across this highway, basically, I imagined myself walking in front of the street and ending my life. And in this vision that I had, I believe it was a vision from God, because it actually scared me. And I saw myself run in front, and then I'm pretty sure I know cars pretty well, but in this vision that I saw, it was a Buick or Honda, like a silver SUV, that hit me, and it stopped the entire basically highway. And I saw in this vision an ambulance coming, like rushing right through, and the whole road was closed down. Everything was closed down in this vision. It was very, very real. And I saw my body laying there, and blood and stuff. And it scared me so badly that I literally I didn't know what to do. But by the grace of God, I walked across that highway safely, and didn't want to end my life because I was scared of what could have happened next. So then I sat down on a wooden bench by my dad's apartment, and I just started crying, and then all of a sudden it just started raining really hard. And I was like, I could go back in his house. but I didn't feel okay. So I called the 988 number, the suicide hotline number. And then a police officer arrived, and because I just felt like I wasn't safe at all. So I made that decision. A police officer arrived, and then they eventually brought me via ambulance into a regular hospital, and then escorted me. Eventually, by 3 a.m., I was there at a mental hospital this time. But yeah, they didn't even get me into an ambulance until 3 a.m. Keep in mind, this was at like a 2 or 3 p.m. maybe. Maybe 4 by the time I was in the regular hospital. But then it was literally 3 a.m. by the time I got to a mental hospital. And most people have never went to a mental hospital before, so it's very hard to explain every single thing that goes on in a mental hospital. But it was, and this has happened every time that I've went to a mental hospital since. It has been, I'll just say, it's been painful. Those memories from mental hospitals, I want to erase those memories really badly. Like, I want them to go away, but they won't. Like, they literally won't. And the hard part is that obviously I didn't ask God to have bipolar. I don't know why he gave me bipolar. I don't know why I have this depression and this pain, and sometimes feeling like I should just sabotage my life for no reason. I've been in this circular motion of my life, and I just don't know how to get out. And I've prayed so many times. I've went to church. I've given my life to God. I've been baptized. I've talked to so many different people. But from my experiences with all of these things, I have gotten a bigger picture, and I believe it's from God himself that has given me these bigger pictures that I can't even explain. Like, some of these visions or dreams that I've gotten, I just cannot explain. Some of it makes sense and some of it doesn't make sense. But what I feel is that God still has a much bigger purpose for my life, but it's just not right now. It's not like his purpose for my life is right now, but what I'm saying is I don't feel like the whole part is complete. Like, there's things that God wants for me, well, what God wants to happen for me that just haven't happened yet. And that's kind of what I wanted to share a little bit of. But I'll say the first hospitalization, I mean, that was probably the worst hospitalization because you really don't know what to experience. Even the second hospitalization, that was like, I didn't know what it was going to be like, and it was bad the second time. The third time, I kind of knew what it was expected, but it was from a much more professional mental hospital. But I'll describe kind of the first one real quick, is that I lost everything that I felt like I just lost a part of myself when I went into the mental hospital. Like, yeah, like my phone was taken away, my family was taken away, my friendships were taken away for that time. But I think what I lost the most is I felt alone before that, but now I felt even more alone, and I didn't even know what I should have done. Like, I didn't, like, just sitting in a mental hospital alone for like 1 to 2 weeks really shows you that your life is actually, there's a purpose. But when you're in a mental hospital, it doesn't feel like there's a purpose, even though there's transformation going on in your life when it's needed the most, right? But when you're in that dark space, basically by yourself, you're left with your own thoughts. You don't really know anybody, obviously. And what was crazy with the second hospitalization is one of my old friends actually was there with me. Eventually, he came in, and I was like, "Whoa, like this dude's here." I didn't know he was going through this, and he probably felt the same way. But that doesn't happen, obviously, like at all. Like the odds of an old friend showing up at a mental hospital is obviously like 0.0001% or something. But anyways, moving on, I started to try to make friends at the mental hospitals, and you have to obviously be super careful with that, because that can turn into obviously issues and stuff. But the thing is, you don't know anybody. It feels like you're going into like on day one, it feels like you're going to a high school or something, but because you just don't, like a new high school where you don't know anybody, and you're like scared, if that makes sense. That's kind of what it feels like the first day that you're in a mental hospital. But like I'm trying to say that I started to get involved in like writing out things, like writing out symbols and stuff. And I've never done that in my entire life, but I later just I realized that I had made like occultic symbols. I didn't know this at all, but a lot of the things that I was writing down were essentially like occultic symbolism, and that's where I feel like some of the spiritual stuff was going on. It kind of followed, and I even got influenced by someone in the mental hospital, a patient, and he said that he knew what I was like writing, which made it so much worse. It just influenced me to write stuff even more, and everybody in the hospital was looking at me like I was insane, and I was in a very manic stage, and that's where I feel like this had like the people that were in the hospital, like all the nurses and stuff, like they didn't know what was going on with me. They didn't have any treatment or anything. I just feel like they didn't know what I was going through. And by the way, this was like the second hospitalization. The first one I'll describe a little bit of, because that one was actually like much different. At this hospital, I had like paranoia, and like I think I was losing sleep, and it was similar to both other hospitalizations too, that I lost a ton of sleep, and that's a huge cause for mania to start to happen. And obviously you can lose control even if you don't have mania. You can lose control when you lose sleep. And I eventually, they got me on certain medications, and it made me see things like weird. Like again, I don't even know if it was paranoia, but it was weird. I thought that furniture was like moving in my room when I was trying to sleep. It was so weird. And I try to look back on that sometimes and think, okay, maybe I was crazy, but it could have been like medication side effects. And they eventually switched my medications from, to a different one. But I think the second hospitalization was easily the most impacting, because I remember like eventually when I was, kind of moving away from like drawing symbolism, when I was starting to kind of regain mostly when I'm trying to figure out the word for this, but basically regain myself, essentially, like regaining my normal self when I was transitioning back to that part. Man, for some reason, I was looking at the reflections from the window in my room, and I don't know why, but it really like got my attention for some reason. and then there's a huge like switch in between this where I felt major depression, like major depression, and I saw this other, basically, I saw this like visualization essentially, where I was literally in this visualization. I slammed my head against the wall, and ended my life, basically. And same visualization. I was laying on the floor after that, and it was gory, basically. And I don't like that kind of stuff. I get scared of like, it might sound funny, but I get scared of like gore and stuff. And it was very like realistic what I saw. It was almost like this movie scene or something. It was so like impactful almost. But in this visualization, I saw the word stay, and it like the word floated around like this, again, like a text animation or something. It was another, type of visual thing. And I still wanted to end my life. Like after I saw that, and I believe it was God, but I still really wanted to end my life. But then it repeated, it said, no, stay. And I was like, why? Like, why do you want me to stay? Like, why do you want me to suffer? Because I don't want to be here anymore. And like, it just kept flashing in my mind, like, stay, 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 stay. And man, the emotions that I felt when that hit, like I said, I mean, I understood that this was very likely God. But again, to me, I just wanted to end my life. And then I believe I like started crying for a while, but then I like stood up and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get out of this room and I'm gonna go like talk to some people. I'm just gonna talk to different patients and try to like understand. And I still think that it's all hard to remember because this was like literally 2 or 3 years ago. But I'm pretty sure that I was still like involved in like writing symbolism and stuff, but it was more so like closer to God. And like I started reading the Bible in the hospital, which I don't even think I had picked up, but it was after this moment that I really felt, connected to God. And even though I still experience a lot of depression in my life, a ton of depression, a ton of anxiety, and a ton of just not knowing what's next, being scared of all that stuff. I still feel like God has a plan in my life, and I think that's why I'm talking to you guys on this camera, even though I don't know your personal life, your personal story. I'm just here because I believe God put me here, and I even prayed. I was feeling so much depression before making this video, and then I prayed that God would lead me through this to be able to make this video. And I honestly don't know how I'm still making this video, but I am. And I thank God. But I wanna talk about my third hospitalization, the most recent, and I haven't been hospitalized since. But this was a mix of just a crazy hospitalization, but one that seriously changed my life. Like, the other hospitalizations didn't really feel like they changed my life so much because I still experienced a lot. And I mean, I still do experience, like I said, a lot of depression, but this one gave me a ton of resources, and it was a Christian mental hospital, and it really, really changed me. Um, because this time around, I knew that, the last times that I was, in those mental hospitals, I realized that I wasn't actually there to learn how to deal with these things, to deal with these mental health issues that I'm facing directly. And this hospital taught me that, and I wasn't as distracted as I normally was from all those other hospitals. Um, I was still going through a lot. I had some bad manic episodes. Um, like, this might sound really bad, but I was on the wrong medication in the third hospital. I was on the wrong medication, and I acted out. Like, I was screaming, and I tried to literally break out of the hospital. Um, where most times, like last previous mental hospitals, I just accepted it. Like, I accepted where I was. I accepted. I realized why I was there. um, but before I get into the third hospitalization, I want to kind of show like what was going on in my life before that. I wanted to talk about that. Um, so basically, I was at a park, and man, I I was experiencing a lot through this part two in my life. Obviously, most times when you're going to a mental hospital, you're going through a lot in your life, but I basically was concerned about the hurricanes in Florida. I don't know why, but like natural disasters and stuff kind of affect me in a way because I I just feel like climate change is a big problem, and I feel like people need to focus on it more, but it's not just because of that. I actually like really love Florida as a state. Like, I really have wanted to move there, but I actually didn't really want to talk about that part in the video, but there it is. That's kind of like a slice of the reason I went is because I was really concerned about Florida and the people in Florida, and again, I love Florida as a state. It's one of my favorite states. Um, but the other part was being manic, and like I said, I was at a park, and for some reason I remember vividly wanting to feel like Jesus. Like, I wanted to experience what it was like to be like Jesus and to feel the pain that Jesus felt. And it was powerful. Um, it was powerful in my mind that I wanted to feel like what Jesus felt because I wanted to get closer to Jesus in my life. But also another part of it was, again, mental health problems, depression, just lost. And I remember literally walking up this hill at this park and finding like pricks. It was so weird. I was literally trying to find like thorns and stuff and then stab my foot with them. And I just, like I said, I wanted to feel like Jesus. It was this just weird thing. And I started to try to basically dehydrate myself and to put myself basically through what Jesus felt in the desert. And I remember just walking all the way to the beach and laying in the sand and planning to spend the night and sleeping in there. And this probably sounds insane to a lot of people in this. It even sounds insane to me now. But again, when you're in that manic state, you just lose sight of everything. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because with mania, the scary thing is basically you'll keep thinking about that thing until you do it, and it makes it hard to sleep at night. But I did that, and I basically just tried to disappear. I tried to make it so nobody could find me, so nobody could see where I was. I tried to hide myself, basically, is what happened. And I was literally planning to spend almost the entire night at a park. And oh my God, I don't know why it's affecting me right now, but I just lost sight, and I wanted somebody to find me and somebody to help me almost, because I have just felt so alone, like, a lot of my life. Like, I've wanted, and it's not for attention, I just have wanted somebody to see me for what I'm, like, basically from what I'm suffering through. Like, I just wanted to be like one person to talk to, like, it just one person. So, eventually I walked out of there, and I literally sat in the sand, maybe in this, like, almost like a hill, like on a downcline of a hill. I, like, just literally laid there, and I even remember before all that someone looked concerned for me, and there was no concern for myself at that point. There was no concern. But like I said, I just tried to, for one, feel like Jesus, and to basically hide. And like I said, I didn't care about myself at that moment. I didn't care. Like I said, I was literally planning to wait it out and, like, walk home or whatever by like 10 p.m. And even the other thing is, I've had these dreams that had kind of showed me, like, my day before it even happens. And I know, again, that sounds crazy. I've even told people that before in person, and they're like, "That's crazy. That's not true." But I've experienced it. I've seen it myself. I don't care what anybody else tells me. I've seen those things. But yeah, eventually I walked out of that area, and I was gonna walk back home or whatever, and I called the cops, because, again, I didn't know, like, what was going on with me. And I wish I chose a different route. Like, I really, really do. I regret it. In that moment, I was extremely suicidal. And, when you're suicidal like that, you don't really know. And again, bipolar can really mess around with your mind and make bad decisions. And that was a bad decision, and I feel bad about it to this day. But yeah, I know that if I ever need help again, I can call 988. It's pretty much the same thing, but you know, I've learned a lot from all these things, all these mistakes, and you know, that third hospitalization, I really like started to find myself again, and I started talking to more people, and God revealed to me a lot of things through that. There was a lot of painful moments, hardships. There was things that still confuse me to this day. But what I want to talk about is, again, like the fact of going through something like bipolar, or even, you know, something like ADHD, or I mean, ADHD is like not as bad as bipolar is, but you know, any of the things that I've experienced, like depressive disorder, you know, even, gosh, what is that one disability? That's I'm trying to remember the name of it. Yeah, the thing is, I've gotten diagnosed with a lot of different disorders, but to me, bipolar still just makes so much sense, and those are like, I've been taking bipolar medication, and you know, I feel like it's been more helpful, and it just makes so much more sense to me than the other things. And people more recently have, you know, diagnosed me. I've been diagnosed, I think, with bipolar like 2 or 3 times. So like I said, that makes the most sense for me. And making those frightening decisions sometimes when you're experiencing mania, I just want people to know, like, mania in itself, like bipolar, I mean, in itself, is not really a bad disability. I mean, like, it is, but it's not like, what I'm trying to say is like yes, bipolar is bad, but the more when somebody with bipolar is alone, like I am a lot, that can definitely drive up problems. That can definitely cause more issues and scary actions, possibly. I don't know. It just depends, I guess, on the treatment and, you know, how the person is doing. You know, if they have things to do. But I feel like with my problem right now is I've had many jobs, but right now I don't have a job. Like, you know, I'm trying to do YouTube more and more, and I believe in all that stuff and entrepreneurship as a whole. I just want to accomplish so much, and I just never feel fulfilled at a normal job. Every time that I've went to mental hospitals, I've had a job. No, wait. Every time I went to mental hospitals, I had a job. That's what I'm trying to say. So I think the main problem is that I get caught up in the job so much that it becomes so important to me that it starts to cause issues. And I'm currently looking for a new job right now, but that's something that I feel like a lot of people with bipolar need, but also at the same time, like, the way that, it's hard to describe. Basically, people that have bipolar have a harder time working at a job if they don't enjoy it and stuff. That's kind of what I'm meaning to say. And that's kind of actually really important, I believe, at least with my experience with bipolar mania and all that, is finding something that you really enjoy, even if it's a hobby, like something small. And I think that's kind of kept me on the right track at times where I feel stress, is just finding something that I enjoy doing. But guys, there's a lot more to my story in this, and I've I've made a business called stayalive.shop, and I don't have it right now because it's just too hard to manage. It's too hard to run. It's kind of expensive, but I believe that God told me to stay alive and to create that business and help people. And I don't want to get political at all. I really don't. But, and I didn't even know if I wanted to talk about this part, but the assassination of Charlie Kirk has really made me want to open up more and speak about, not speak about the same things that he does, but speak about like mental health and the importance of just trying to, like I said, just try to find something that you truly enjoy, and I think that'll get you through a lot of things if you're struggling right now. Definitely finding people, finding friends. The one friend that I had, I really liked him. I really felt like he was a great friend, and we got into basically these debates about God and how to basically live in that Christian viewpoint, and we kind of disagreed in a lot of different ways because he told me that basically I need to live in a different way that is, I wouldn't say like closer to God, but like basically just being more religious and being careful of what I listen to, like music or watch. And from my Christian perspective, like I do agree, but saying that you shouldn't watch or like listen to like a specific Christian band, I just felt like it was a little too hard, like a little too far. Like if he would have said like a different pop artist, or like what I'm trying to say is like if he would have said don't listen to pop music or something, or a specific pop artist, I could understand. But saying to another Christian to stop listening to your favorite Christian music because it's wrong is kind of discouraging. And there were so many times where I was depressed, going through so much, and I just felt like he didn't help me through that. And I feel like friends are supposed to be there for each other through hardships. I would have been there for him. But it just sucks because, genuinely I thought he was a good friend with a good heart. But my example for this is that friendships are important. I just struggle with them sometimes. I struggle with talking to people sometimes, and that's why I'm behind a camera at times. And I wanna make more videos about this kind of stuff. And there's so much more that I want to share, but I feel like this would make the video so much longer than it already is. If you enjoyed, please comment below. Please subscribe and share this video if you know somebody that's struggling and you feel like they need this. Yeah, I hope this is I hope this video helps you guys, because I know that a lot of people in the same generation or even younger than I am are struggling right now, and it's hard in this world because we are so attached to technology and our phones and everything, and I'm not saying like give up your phone. I'm not saying give up your computer. I'm not saying give up your lifestyle. I'm just saying like finding people that care. I promise you guys, finding the people that you that care is going to change your life. And if you know somebody that's struggling with depression or anxiety or suicide and stuff, just lean on to them as their friend. Even if you aren't their friend right now, just be there, because I struggle with that so much. Like I struggle reaching out to people, and I still am depressed. I still am suicidal at times. I still don't want to be here, you know. But the one thing I don't have is I don't have like any friends. And I know technically I can only blame myself for that. But it really can feel like trying to carry a weight that is way too heavy. And God, sometimes I'm gonna say right now, sometimes it's so hard to go to somebody and give them the weight that you're lifting because you feel like it's too strong for you. Putting a weight on somebody else, and another thing is how they're gonna react to that is a big thing. So like I said, please try to reach out to people that you know are struggling, because I will say, being in the darkness in this time in my life, feeling just completely drained, completely lost, I know that it's a part of what I'm doing. And I'll say that lately in my life, I recognize that I've been basically self-sabotaging myself. But the biggest freaking issue is that I don't know how to get out of that rotation, because it just feels normal. Like it feels like it's not even, like it doesn't even feel like an issue. It feels like it's just a normal thing in my life, even though I know that it's not. And that's where I'm at right now, is I feel like I'm at a breaking point. I really feel like I'm at a breaking point in my life. This is not the first time that I felt like at a complete breaking point. I felt this way so many times, but I've almost grown numb to it, and I'm not really sure what to do. That's where I'm at right now in my life. And because to me, there's like 50 different things I can change. But I told my counselor this, and I'm only telling you guys this because I believe that this could be relatable in a way, that I just basically like ending my own life at this point. I know this sounds really bad, but ending my own life, it feels like it would be so much easier than, you know, trying to fix 50 to 100 different things that I know that I have to go through, that I am absolutely terrified to go through. Like, there's so many things, and I know that a lot of you probably feel that way too, that there's so many things that you know you have to get done that are so high up. They feel like you're trying to reach for something that is unreachable. Gosh, that's the pain, that weight that's there when you realize that you have to seriously climb that ladder and try to reach out for something that you don't know if it's gonna hurt you more than the hurt that you're already feeling. That's the depression and all that I'm feeling, is just that unbearable weight and the mystery of what's next. And I know for some people that sounds like a great thing, like, oh, You never know what's going to happen tomorrow, but that's kind of a scary thing. It's kind of a scary thing to think about. Like, what could happen tomorrow? Man. Yeah, like every day, it just feels like that. Like, and like I said, like there's these much bigger things that are in my mind that are like, that is going to be, that is going to be tough to get to. Like it's just the little things, that add up. Like, my next job, like how much is my next job going to pay for? Like, how much am I going to get from my next job, I mean? And then how much do I have to pay for a house? Like, that's going to be really freaking expensive. I'm going to need this, and this. I have to, get a girlfriend. I have to eventually marry her. I have to eventually plan for the wedding. I have to eventually do a honeymoon. Then I have to, oh my God, it's just a lot of different shit. Even like, I have to have a kid at some point. Like, I have to raise the kid. I have to eventually get it to go to school. Bring it back and forth every time. College, pay for college. All the other stupid things that like add up. Like, that's the pain that I feel. Like, I always think ahead to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And I know that's not the best way of thinking. That's what my counselor says, at least. Like, try not to think too far ahead, but goddamn, like, sorry for my language, but I am going to think far ahead. I'm going to think about that stuff because that's the reality of life is all those moments, all those things. And, it basically, it feels painful, but also, gosh, it also kind of feels like a blessing at the same time once it's there. Like, once it's there, then everything is good. But right now, that's where the hardship is, for me in my mind. And I don't know if anybody else relates to that, but that's where my mind goes. Honestly, that is literally where my mind goes, is like 20 steps ahead of like where like I am right now. But yeah, I hope that there's a lot of people watching this, and I hope that this helps. Because like I said, it helps me to kind of rant and try to get rid of this stuff, knowing that some of you guys are going through the same thing. But yeah, I love you guys. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Peace.